This anchor. So when I completed senior 6, I told my father I would do mass communication. And he said, no, you're going to do law. And yes, I went to law school. Most of us, it affects us. Maybe some of us are able to still go to law school and still find our interest in areas that we wanted to do at that early stage. But some people end up losing it because of that disconnect that exists. And what Julius Buchana spoke about, that you see a lot of people at university who are not clear on what they want, that is why they will end up changing courses. So I'll just cluster it to maybe speaking about the need for career guidance at a very young stage for us to be able to identify where we belong or where our path should be. And then most of the other questions, and I think one of those you already spoke about it, is how do we nurture the young people to see that they are able to also acquire the skills. Just a specific question that I think we had not really talked so much about, which was from Amon, and maybe Comrade Otoa could respond to it, is on the question of finances. Because clearly it's like the ceiling of most of the challenges that we face today. My landlord doesn't know that maybe I am not working anymore. So we need to see how we address that particular question of finances. And maybe lastly, I thought Fiona could respond to it, is on addressing the question of the fears and the challenges that we have in our workspaces. For someone that is transiting, and this is something that Zaif asked, how are we able to address those fears? Also coming into such spaces like Emma talked about, being a lady and you're able to sit in a room full of intimidating people sometimes can be difficult, even when the intention is not really the intimidation, but there's a lot of fear, there's lack of confidence, and I don't know if that also goes back to the career guidance that we need to equip the young people with, but maybe to speak about some of those fears and how we address them as the young people. So I'll start with you, Comrade.
Thank you very much. Apologies, I'll have to run after this. I am roasting and I don't want my meat to get burnt. But I'm just going to answer. There were so many questions that were asked, but I think the first one is on team nurturing. And I thought that was a very interesting one. I've been doing something, or I've been walking around focusing on, high performance teams and creating teams that can do, great stuff, amazing stuff. And I'll be very honest with you. Teams, or how you build teams, is very critical to how you run your organization. And I think this was from my brother here with the organization. We have something now that we're doing, Clarity 4D. Now, Clarity 4D is really about looking at the different personality types, okay, and seeing how they relate and communicate with one another. That is very essential in how you build your team. Sometimes, and I always say this, a lot of the time actually, not sometimes, your straight A people at university, they're the worst team players. You'll be amazed. They assume they know, so they don't want to learn, they don't want to work with anyone, and they'll just be the most annoying people on any team. So it's very important for you to understand that you need to, first of all, understand what you want out of your team, and then get the right people on board. So it's just like a bus. Get the right people on the bus. Otherwise, you'll have this one guy who is just pulling everyone behind. You can just imagine a car with one wheel that is punctured. Dead weight. So you have to deal with that. The other one was, how did you feel when you transited or when you moved on? To be honest with you, you don't know what you're going to feel. You don't know how you're going to feel. You just have to dive in and feel it. I don't know how many of you have been to a swimming pool, and then you're waiting to jump in. You're thinking, should I jump in? Then the guy just pushes you in, and you come back up, and you're like, okay, it wasn't that bad after all. There is only one way to find out. You just have to jump in. I can't tell you how Jesus felt on the cross, but I can tell you for a fact, he knew when he was on the cross. Now, until you get onto your own cross, you will know what it feels like to be on that cross. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, how do you deal with finances? And again, I'll tell you from my personal experience. When I left for the UK, for my Cheyo episode, when my visa was 3 weeks to run out, we had looked for money all over Kampala because my father wasn't entertaining my nonsense. I am going for Cheyo, and yet he had taken me to school. I mean, what nonsense was that? So until my friend Roland Taremwa, who had a friend who would give us a car over the weekend, this car we took to a money lender in Makindye to Samula. Yeah, that is the money that made me go. Now I can tell you for a fact, finances, and again, if you're waiting for the right time or the right finances, you will wait and wait and wait. So again, you need to be able to realize that you have to take the shot, you have to take the risk, you have to just jump in and see what happens. You'll be amazed actually when you jump in there. It's actually easier than you anticipated. So, finances, I'll tell you for a fact that even the richest guy in Uganda today is struggling about how to make more money because he feels like the money is not enough. Now, if that guy is like that, now how about me? And in Stoicism, we always have this thing where we say you need to be able to understand that having or being grateful for what you have, even the little that you have, you are richer than the guy who is out there looking and searching for anything else. So you just have to be content. There will never be enough finances for you to be comfortable. Like my brother about living like a man. Bro, there's a story told of a guy. So this guy is a fishing village. The guy is chilling, man. He's chilling on his hammock, holding his belly, whistling. And this industrialist comes and says, "But you guy, you seem to be a lazy guy, man. Why are you just chilling? Huh? Why are you just lounging and chilling?" Then the guy says, "Okay, so what do you want me to do?" The guy says, "No, now you see, you could be out there creating a factory that can actually create nets. You do more nets, make more boats, go out, make more money. The next thing you know, you have a fleet of planes, and then you'll be chilling." And the guy says, "But what am I doing right now?" Because I am chilling. You understand? So, people's perspectives of realities are actually, something that is, particular to each and every one of us. So your reality might never be my reality. What drives me, what moves me, what makes me excited might not be what drives you and excited. I mean, I have a guy, my brother here, Kera, who has tried to roast. He has never roasted anything out of his life or in his life. I wonder how he does his dates. But truth is, I love roasting, and that's what I know. So my perspective is different from yours, and I think you need to understand that. But also, Pfizer has just walked out. But I remember how she tweeted last week about what courses pay more or what courses don't pay. You remember that tweet? And people were saying, "Oh, this course doesn't pay." I will amaze you that some people who did the most random courses are actually doing far better than some people who did those crazy, amazing courses. So again, it just goes back to you as the individual. What are you doing about yourself? How much value are you adding to yourself? Because remember, the world is a marketplace. So when you get into the marketplace, how much value do people see in you? Are you reading? Are you doing another course? I just got enrolled onto another, management course recently. And for me, it was not about proving anything, but it was just about saying, can I just add some more value to myself so that when I go back into the marketplace, people can actually look at me in a different light. So do you just go with your university certificate and say, my GPA is 4.0, I was the baddest guy, I used to, support everyone with their coursework, and I'm, what value are you bringing into the marketplace? And I always say, it is not what you're getting from your opportunity or your job, it is who and what you are becoming. So what value are you adding to yourself? That's a very, very important one. Parents and career guidance, man, my parents, for me, my father would sit us down, and so I was supposed to be a pilot. My brother James was supposed to be a doctor. My brother Sam was supposed to be an engineer. Well, the truth is none of us became any of that. We had to rebel. But you see, career choices can actually be got, or should actually be got, from outside your normal space. You'll be amazed at how many people you actually meet on a daily basis who could actually guide you to where you want to go. Our friends and relatives and whatever, those are the biggest useless people. By the way, you'll notice this. When you tell most of your family or friends, because they know you, they'll say, it's so boss. You can't. Because they assume they know you. But tell it to a stranger. He'll even tell you how to get there. Because a stranger will be like, bro, that's a good idea, man. Actually, if you added this to it, you could even reach easier. Now, I know a guy who, but if now me, Otoa, I tell Kera, I want to go to the moon, Kera will say, but what moon can you go to, you man, Otoa? You understand? So again, look out for mentors. Look out for people who you aspire to be like. And by the way, you'll be amazed when you ask these people for help. They will do it for you for free. I have a spiritual mentor. I have a spiritual mentor. I have a career mentor. I have a business mentor. I have mentors on many levels. And these guys are people you can just meet, have a drink with or whatever. It's for 30 minutes. The things you learn from them, your parents and relatives will never be able to do that in years. So make use of that. The other thing was career and choosing what to do, what you're good at. I think I've talked about that. How do you harmonize society pressure? I don't know if for these lawyers, and I'll tell you, they like to dress up. These lawyers. Now, these lawyers also like to drive Mercedes-Benz. It's perception. They believe that when you're seen, or when society sees like that, you're highly credible. Truth is, no one gives a damn. No one gives a damn. The moment you realize that it's all about you, going out to do what makes you happy, where your passions are, you'll be amazed. When I look at Mr. B's here, Mr. B's is one of the guys who's gone through our program. He's made so much money from our program and, the grants and everything. I spoke about him a couple of weeks ago and the guy stood up and said he'd never been to university. I was very amazed about that. But you can see that he's clearly following his passions. He's learning more about his trade. He has an office now next to, I think, your office at Kenneth Dell. He's doing well for himself. Now, I know he asked about, if he wants to go back to school. Again, Mr. B's, it doesn't really have to have that degree. Trust me. Just for the sake of it. But the truth is, it's important for you to understand that your passions, your things that you love are actually bigger than anyone else talking about, you being this or that. The other thing that I wanted just to talk about is purpose and alignment. Now, if you, and again, this is a very interesting thing. I know 50 and 60-year-olds who still do not know their purpose, strangely. So again, don't really work yourself up. You'll one day find it. But the truth is, if you can know, and if you know what you're good at, if you know what you can wake up in the morning and you're passionate about and can do effortlessly, you're already finding your true north. But in my perspective, and I'll tell you for myself, it's really about service. And that's why we set up Ubuntu Leadership Safari. We were asking ourselves the pertinent question of, how can we contribute to this leadership conversation in a world where we have vice presidents and people taking iron sheets that are meant for, people that are in need? We need these conversations. So how can we create leaders who are purposeful or who are purpose-led? Because leadership is about service. Now, today there was this man cave conversation where some guy was saying, if I bring my fruits, you have to make for me juice. I'm entitled to my juice. I said, but okay, you're entitled to your juice, but how about the labor that has made the juice? How about, so it's really, I always say, when God has put you in a position, when God has given you a gift, when God has given you anything, great. He's using you as a vessel to serve. It's not for you. He has looked out and found you and given it to you to serve. So purpose has to be intertwined with that whole idea of service. When I go to my job every day, it's not because I want to be a CE. No, I'm asking myself the crazy question of how do I serve people more? How do I serve people better? How can I disrupt this whole service sector? And I think for me, that's a very, very critical one. So purpose is something that you will have to look out for. You'll have to, if you have no purpose, you're pretty much like a ship that is at the harbor and it wants to go somewhere, but it doesn't know where it's going. You can imagine, you are in Mombasa, you assume you're going to end up in India, but you don't even know where India is. And I know 60-year-olds who are still struggling with that. So it's important for you to first of all ask yourself, what are you good at? What is that one thing that you're really good at? And how can you use it to make other people great? The moment you have that figured out, I think you've pretty much found your purpose. And by the way, purpose is usually singular. If you think about so many people, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, or Jesus, they had just one purpose. One, singular. Jesus would be asked, so what are you doing or why are you here? He says, this one thing only. I have come to do this one thing only. But for you, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do gig here, you want to do... Bro, you can't cut it. So you have to think about that. Thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure being with you. I'm sorry I have to leave, but it's been amazing. Thank you very much.
Let's clap him out of the room. Yeah. I think you can take it on from there. I see he responded to most of the questions, but at least some were not really touched. So maybe you could speak in line to those. One specifically about the fears and challenges. He talked about the nurturing. Maybe you could also speak more about it since you're doing more about the nurturing. And also how to deal with the society pressures. And I think lastly, someone had asked a specific question to you on how you satisfy your colleagues or your employees in the workspace. I think this is something you already spoke to, but maybe for the sake of the person that asked, just to shed more light to it. And yeah, and advice as well on how someone can identify some of those transferable skills. If they're moving from a certain industry to the other, how do they know that this is something best left in a law firm, or this is something I can take on even in this other sector that I am into now?
Wow, those are loaded. You remind me as we go along. I want to start with something that he led off with. The challenges. There are many challenges. When you're thinking about a career change, I had a career change in December. And at the same time, I've been thinking about this career change since 2018. In fact, in 2018, I wanted to leave. I absolutely wanted to leave. But you need to think about, I don't know what's in your situation, but you need to realize that we don't do life alone. I have a husband, I have children, my mom, I have my parents. My parents are still, who said, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a medical doctor. I spent the whole of O-level reading medical journals. And then my father found out I had put PCB on the job form. He came to school, went to UNEB, got a new job form, made me change it. So I was a victim of that. But I'm really glad I was a victim of that. I have seen people who have done like Precious said, who get their degree. Was it Precious? Somebody there? Who get the degree, bring it. I have a friend who did law, brought it to her parents, then went and did mass comm, because that's what she wanted. There are two facts you need to realize. Your parents relate with you from their reality. And you have to understand that. The second thing is, you're under their roof, you're using their money. That's a fact of life. You can't get my money and start telling me what to do with it. Most of our parents are like that, right? So what do? I told you about leading upwards. I grew up in a very, very conservative family. My parents speak to each other and say, I say. They don't even call each other their names. They say, I say, you know. Are we leading upwards? How much are we channeling our bosses to see that this other role is relevant and that I'm the best person? The other thing about shining and hiding lights, the one thing I'll tell you is you'll never be able to hide a light. If you're shining, you will shine. You might shine out the door, but it's okay, you will shine. But the thing is, sometimes people are insecure because they've reached their ceiling and they know it. And everything you're doing is already a threat. So if you are a shiny, new, young, energetic person, and then you start rubbing it in everybody's face how shiny and new you are, you're going to face resistance. They say to each, what was the law of friction? To each motion, every action, equal and opposite force, you know? So we need to work with wisdom. I can tell you that that boss you think you outshine has something to teach you, just by the very fact that they were there before you. But you might miss all these lessons. And that brings me to another lesson from the Japanese. It's called shohari. Say shohari. So sho stands for if, when the student is ready, the teacher will be revealed. So who are your mentors at work? Who are your mentors at home? Who is your coach? If the highest paid footballer in the world, who's that? Who? Ronaldo? Okay, whatever, I don't know these things. Who? Yes, if the highest paid footballer in the world, who's been training probably since he was 5 years old, needs a coach, who are you not to? Who are you not to? He needs a coach to kick a ball every day. Sometimes I don't get that. But then these other things of life, you need coaches. You need coaches within your home environment, within your school environment. Do not alienate yourself. There's so much gold right now. Just today, I hope you get a chance to network. I was so impressed. And to you guys clap for yourselves. When I looked at you all, I'm sorry I judged you as young people who are probably, I don't know, what age, I don't know. But I'm hearing employers, I'm hearing, and you are young, but you're employing people, you're passing it forward, you're serving. Your challenges are big. Your challenges are, how do we build teams? Now, how do you build a team? I've told you, you have to build trust, one. You have to be hard. He said the workplace is a bus. The hardest thing for people like me is when to fire. When do you know when to say bye? When do you know when to let someone go? You don't have to buy them all the KFC till it's gone. That is not your forte. But I want to tell you that every employee, especially if you do 8 to 5, you spend more time at work than at home. So how fulfilling is their work? And fulfilling does not mean that you're going to give them KFC or they're going to sit and I don't know, and breathe, but you need to be able to know your team. You need to be able to know she's struggling. She has reached her end. You need to be able to say, Shiba, take 5, go back home. Today you're a mess, you know? There are those hard people who will even come and they're so sick. He is burning. He walks into your room and the fever takes up the room. But he's come to work. Send him home. They need to know that, you know, there are those psychosocial things that affect the workplace. Now, those are the things that make people quit. It's not money. Am I right? I have worked in places where they pay me so little, but I love the place. But the psychosocial things, when I come, do you drain my energy? When I come, do I feel empowered? Do I feel a leader? Do I feel like I learned something new? Do I have a colleague who's teaching me something new? Do I meet new people? Sometimes sometimes as lawyers, as partners, we don't want our young lawyers to meet clients because they might steal them. But you see, you're not going to keep that young person locked up in a computer. If they're sanguine, they're empowered by being with people. They feed off people. But also by exposing them to more clients, they understand what your business is about. One of you talked about vision. They don't understand the vision. Take time off and try to sell them this vision. But also understand their vision, because it might be so different. The other thing, they said, I was still on Shohari. When the student is ready, the master will appear. There's a part to that. When the student is ready, the master will disappear. I have a mentor who I met in my first year, Professor Ntambireci, my first law class. The first law class, he said so many things, and then I got up and I filled in mass communication forms because I didn't want to do law anymore. And then I went on the list. After that, I decided to do law. Then I went on the list and it said that he was going to be my mentor. For some reason, Mercury does that, but I don't know whether any of you have ever looked at it. When you're admitted, there's actually, some of you are given mentors. So I went to him and told him, you're supposed to be my mentor, and he laughed me out of the room. So I did not like this man. Then we had a coursework, and our class prefect took the papers early. So a lot of us who hadn't put in our papers on time, last minute people, we were in trouble. So we went to see Professor Ntambireci to argue our case. I argued for about 2-3 hours. By then everybody had left apart from like 2-3 people. But the 3 of us managed. I won that argument. And that started a love-hate relationship with this professor who would pick on me. He would be teaching philosophy and then he would say, who's a Jesus fanatic here? And everybody would say, Fiona. Then it would start a debate, And then on the other side, he would look at me and say, but I think I know your mother. You look like someone I know. And I would tell him, I don't know you. He would speak to me in Runyankole and I'd tell him, I don't understand that language. But I'm telling you, by 4th year, he was my supervisor. I had manipulated him into being my supervisor for my paper, because with everything he was, I saw his brilliance. Later on, I discovered he knew my mother. He had grown up with her. You can imagine how he rubbed that in. But he became my mentor. When my brother needed a career guide, someone to guide him, he guided him, he gave him a place at the university, he taught him. After that, he became one of my biggest mentors. Every time at the funeral service, I met his wife and children, and they were like, you were daddy's friend. Do you know what that meant for me? But I remember sitting in that church service and not believing that he was gone. Because this was a man, he could laugh and the roof shakes. He had a big laugh. He loved, he was generous, he was big, but he was a big brain as well. And then he was also, he had his arrogance. He would tell you, I have gray hair because my gray matter is in excess. But he was brilliant. And he did so many things. When you look at his CV, there's nowhere he didn't teach in Africa. But he was a coach. He made himself vulnerable to me. He would speak his language to me. I was just a little person, and she was in that university. Maybe, I don't know how he was, but I can tell you that he gave of his life. And I remember sitting in that service and thinking, my teacher has gone. Am I ready? So what am I saying? Make the most of the time you have with your teacher, whoever they are. And your parents are your first coaches in life. And I feel that we waste the time we have with them. So find that time, find that reason, and win them over to your cause. That's probably your first lesson in negotiation. The last thing is is once you have learned, practice, practice, and practice. You will not learn a skill unless you practice it. You went to law school, that's why I'm saying that do not ignore what you studied. Those basic skills you have, find an opportunity to practice them. Because once you practice, then you go to which is innovate. Once you've practiced and learned the skills, the teacher came, the teacher left, then you practiced, you mastered a skill. Now innovate, find your own journey. That's when you need to, and for me as an employer, I've learned to let go. I used to be so emotionally attached. I'm still emotionally attached to my people. And every time one of them would say, I'm leaving, I'd feel like they're quitting me, you know? And it would break me. The first people that used to traumatize me were maids. Actually, my husband, at some point we stopped hiring maids because my husband said it was traumatizing me. I would love them and train them and create mini-me's, you know? And then she says she wants to go, you know? And it's not about salary, it's not, one of them even told me, even me, I want my own home. I want to go and get married. I said, wow, you know? And I would cry and I'd be messed up and I'd find it so hard to hire another one. But one of the things you need to know as a leader is that these young people are on a journey, and the journey might be with you or it might not. But you should be able to let them go. That's also a lesson I am learning. But one of the things you need to learn is that, and that's why I say don't break bridges, is that there are people who let you go. I don't know where you came from for you to innovate. Did you work somewhere, you know? There are people who let us go. Let's maintain those relationships. The people we let go, let's maintain those relationships. I have recommended people. I recommended one of the girls that first worked for me in my first law firm. I recommended her to work somewhere, and it broke my heart to let her go, but I knew I couldn't afford her. Mr. KFC, I couldn't afford her, but when she got a better job, I gave her there. Then this place needed a board member. And guess who recommended me? This young lady. Do you understand? So this is a cycle of life. We need each other. Don't break bridges. Build relationships. And this road of career, who was talking about career professions? There's a lot of English there. Who was that? Mr. Buchana, is he still here? He's left? Oh, he's there. Mr. English. It's a broken road. It's a broken road. You know that song that says, God bless this broken road that led me straight to you. It's a broken road that is going to lead you straight to your purpose. But the one thing you can tell, the true north he is talking about, is what do you stand for? Not what you're going to do with your life, but what do you stand for? Your values. Your values are going to determine your purpose. How committed you are to them will keep you closer to the straight road. And also, you need to realize that nature abhors a vacuum. If you have no values, they'll create themselves for you. If you're not straight, you're a thief. There's no in-between. Even the devil doesn't like in-betweens. You can't sit on the fence and say, guys, those ethic things are too much, but I'm not a thief. I'm not a, you know those things. It's either or. So gray is made of black and white matter together, right? We keep saying, oh, I'm in a gray area because we think it's a different color. It's black and it's white. So let's choose our true north. Let's recruit our teachers to our cause and make them coaches instead of protagonists in this journey of career. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fiona. I know we're really out of time, but there is one question that was asked by Precious on whether Fidelis Leadership Institute has programs for the young people in primary and secondary.
So we partner with people like the Bakash Foundation, which already does this, but we also have the FAT Foundation, which is supposed to be doing this. We actually have not started going down there, but I love your idea. As you were speaking, you actually created a very brilliant idea, and I hope that we'll meet with our partners, the Bakash, Ubuntu, and see how to minister to parents. Because my children are in a boarding school, and sometimes they call us for lecture us about the new curriculum, and parents are listening. I think it would be important to get such a meeting and talk to them about the importance of being part of their children's career choices, but not dictate to them. Many times I catch myself trying to drive my daughter to achieve all the things I failed to achieve in life. So it's a very brilliant concept with Rota. We are very welcoming of programs. So please come, join us, and let's do it together. The other thing I wanted to speak to was around no, not the pressures. The women. Someone mentioned women, yes. So as a woman, I'll say there's some facts. There are some facts we have to stand. One is, yes, Uganda is one of those countries that has really promoted women. We have the best constitution, we have the best land laws, but it is also the country that has, right now we have over 38,000 girls who are pregnant or have just had babies from this COVID situation. So women still have problems getting into the room, getting influence, being able to speak up. We have confidence issues. We already have a, what do you call it? This syndrome, an imposter syndrome. Guys, when I do an interview and two of you are there, I'm already feeling I've failed. I'm telling you. And I'll tell you this thing, going into work, I told you when I left school I didn't have a job. It wasn't for trying. I'm such a trier. I had applied. I did this public service thing of becoming a state attorney. We were 5. I was the only girl. But the day that we were supposed to get our letters, apparently, this guy tells me we have to first go to Malaysia. The guy was supposed to give us our letters, me and him. So I said no, and I went back home and I cried. I actually didn't go back home. I went to my boyfriend's house, who's now my husband, and I was so traumatized because I didn't know how to tell this to my mother. And the other guys got their jobs. They're state attorneys. And I didn't. I've never told them why. But I can tell you that you will go to a workplace, you'll both be hired, and the girl will be asked to sleep with her boss or do something, or make tea, you know? Write minutes, do things like we have to do more, we have to show up more, we have to work harder. Ladies, embrace that challenge. For as long as women and men exist, for me, I've seen this, and I'm not trying to discourage the feminine cause because I've been part of it, but I'll tell you that sometimes even the senior women are your worst enemies in that boardroom because they went through so much. The bush war fighters, they keep reminding you how they went through the bush war. So if you haven't gone through the bush, you have no more authority to do anything. You come with your nails painted different colors, they're going to make that the topic. Yet the young man who walks in without even a coat is brilliant, you know? So sometimes, if you did a survey here, you'd find that if 2 of you did a job, went for a job interview, you'd find that you would be paid more than the girl. You might both have asked for that amount of money, but I bet they told the girl, aren't you leaving home? Aren't you, you know? I remember one day I went into a business consulting business with somebody, and then this person was pilfering some money. And then I talked to another guy who was his friend, but our mentor, both of us. And I said, this guy is doing this. Do you know what he told me? He said, you have a husband. This man has problems. Do you see that? So I'm not trying to discourage you. What I'm trying to say is, one thing I remember every time I walk into a room is that it is a privilege. Then, every time I walk in, how do you brand yourself? If you walk into a room half naked and you want a job, what do you think is going to happen? Let's not aid our abusers. Some of them are sick people, by the way. Do not trigger the perverts. Let's not trigger perverts. Guys, these days I'm told you also, you know the way we have FACO for the hips, you know? These days the guys also have FACO for the chests, you know? He walks in with the tightest shirts, lip gloss, you know? And then he walks in and says, hi. And he wants a job. Do you know that young men are being sexually harassed? Do you know that? Do not arm your pervert. I'm not in any way shaming victims here. I'm just telling you that sexual perverts are sick people who need help. And they're usually undiscovered in communities, African communities like ours. We have teachers who move from school to school abusing students. We have employers we have HR managers who sexually harass everybody who comes to them for work. We've seen this. So you have a hyena. You know that's a hyena. Why are you shaping yourself like a little morsel of meat? I have to say this, guys. And I'm saying this because I've seen these things. I am all about people being beautiful, celebrating their femininity, their masculinity, everything. But let's know that there are vultures out there, and we have to protect ourselves. And sometimes I want to tell you, there's something that God told Cain. He said, Cain, when Cain was dying of envy, Cain, sin is knocking at your door. It desires to devour you. You must flee from it. So in our workplaces, let's keep them workplaces. Let's not turn them into places, and I'm talking to even the employers here, to devour our young people. Whether we are taking advantage of them and making them work without paying them, or we're taking advantage of them and abusing them. You know, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, calling you useless every day. That is worse than probably pinching your butt. Pinching your butt, I might slap you. But if you call me useless every day, and you're supposed to be my coach, my mentor, that voice is going to resound. So let's make sure that our young people who experience us are empowered and coached to find their true north. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think let's just give her another round of applause. Someone sent me a message that, hey, moderator, I hope we are not in a feminist class. So I hope it's really important to understand that while we speak about career growth and how we maneuver within our career spaces, some of these things keep manifesting. And it's really important that we have a broad discussion that is not just looking at moving from an industry to the other, but also triggering the aspect of what happens when we're actually in these particular workspaces. So I want to really thank you, my panelists, and also Comrade Otoa, even when he has left. I'm sure there is a lesson or two that any of us might have been able to pick, and hopefully they can be able to apply them in their career spaces. And I also want to thank you for being a very organized, I didn't hope I would have you here up to this time, but at least you all remained here and we've been able to come to the end of this session while you're all here. And I think you deserve to give yourselves a hand clap. So at this point, I want to call upon the CEO of Bakash Media to give his vote of thanks, but also to give the closing for this particular session. Thank you.